Heard about our privilege protection plan? What's that, you may ask? Essentially, I think it's one of the most important reasons you should hire the cybersecurity law firm of Texas to handle your cybersecurity and privacy needs. Essentially, whatever we do to try to give you a legal opinion about where you stand from a cybersecurity and privacy perspective is covered by attorney client privilege. You should check it out. Check out our privilege protection plan. Go to our website now and see if you're interested. If so, give us a call. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the vlog today. Today we're going to talk about business continuity and disaster recovery by way of ransomware. So, if you guys are familiar with my rants on ransomware, ransomware is a piece of malware that has matured over the years. So, I think initially, the way back when, oh my gosh, I want to say this was 2012. Yeah, somewhere around there is when I first started seeing ransomware. And it was when I was teaching because the first ransomware that was actually sent to market was ransomware that was designed to encrypt pictures on users' PCs. It was a personal attack more than a corporate attack. Now we see ransomware as a service where you have criminal enterprises that are actually designed to provide ransomware to other people, and they get paid a cut on the infection and and you paying that ransom or your company paying that ransom. So it has matured. It's now being used against people, and it's a nuisance, and it attacks one of the most fundamental thoughts um, of business, which is continuity of operations, business continuity. Basically, how is your business going to continue or remain in business if it suffers some type of catastrophe or some type of disruption? Any type of disruption. Ransomware is a disruption. It is something that's designed to force you to pay it because, essentially you can't do the business that you're doing if you don't have access to the files or the programs or anything that the ransomware locks up. So what that means essentially is it's a time sensitive thing. So I was reading about TravelX. Now, TravelX is, and you guys seen them. They're a London-based foreign exchange firm. That you see them in the airport. I see them in the airport, especially when I travel internationally all the time. And they got hit with ransomware, and it seems like they've been locked down since January 1st, New Year's Day. And of course, I'm looking at that. I'm like, okay, the timing is interesting because, of course, the holiday season is a high travel time. People are traveling overseas. The currency exchange business, I would guess is pretty big back then, during those times. I'm sorry. And this is the highest travel time. So it creates, it's the ransomware, them getting hit with ransomware at that particular time creates an emergency, right? So that is a situation where they're more likely to pay if they're suffering some type of disruption in their business. And so what it looks like TravelX was breached based on the VPN Pulse vulnerability. And basically, Pulse Secure is a VPN technology that a lot of corporations use for employees to remote into their network. Pulse Secure is one of those. I'm sure you guys seen it. I've seen it before. It's a VPN technology where a couple months ago, well, I guess I blogged about it. I don't remember. All of these things blend together for me. But there was a vulnerability that was out maybe 6 months ago, I think, and the actual the patch was out, and it's been out. And so you have a situation where this vulnerability was exposed. These evidently hackers got into TravelX's system during that time. And so they had been laying in wait, actually, if the facts are the similar. If they had access to TravelX systems and they were waiting to the holiday season to hit them with this ransomware attack. When I read it, that's what it reads like to me. And so, at this particular point, it's not, the what I've been reading about it. TravelX has not been doing a good job in regards to communicating what's wrong. They finally came clean, I guess, last week and said they were hit with a malware, and it's a ransomware gang. Um, of course, a ransomware gang is a criminal enterprise. Those are the folks that get paid off of you paying for, to get your files back. So understand about ransomware, and you'll hear people say, well, ransomware, it's you. There's no proof that the data has been lost or it's been exfiltrated. Exfiltrated means being removed from a company, and that's not what it's designed to do. Ransomware is crimeware. It's not stealing credentials. It is disrupting your operations. It is, I'm going to hold hostage all of your data until you pay me this ransom. And so there's no benefit really to stealing the data, because that, that's overkill. I just want you to pay me the money, and not these, like I said, these are criminal enterprises. So business continuity and disaster recovery is what we were talking about. And being able to recover from an attack like ransomware, they're just, it's simple and it's complicated, right? It's simple in that I've said this from the very first time I've seen it. If you have sufficient backups, right, this is not an attack that can be successful with you. And I understand that there are certain things that you can't have backups for. You're going to lose a certain amount of data, because unless you're doing real-time backups. And so, but losing, 2, 6, 12 hours worth of data and not paying the ransom, I think, is better than not being prepared at all and you have no choice, right? And so companies, and you'll still see it, ransomware is probably going to be a big thing in 2020 again, because you'll still see people not doing what we call those fundamental basic things. And then, which are, computer backups. I mean, you can back up your system, you can back up your data. Data is usually, depending upon the organization, is not, it changes, that the data itself changes more rapidly than, let's say, the application that you're being used. So one of the techniques that I often see, or I practice, myself specifically, is I'll take an image of my entire computer, like soup to nuts, operating system, all my files, everything, maybe once every 2 weeks or so. But I back up my data daily. So any changes in that data. So if I got hit with something like ransomware, the backups that I have will allow me to recover up to, the day or the day of, or whenever the last data backup was, the data backup itself, not the actual image of my entire PC. And for small businesses, this is not something that is that much of a heavy lift. I know there are a lot of companies, small and mids, that outsource their business continuity and disaster recovery, their backup process to an outside provider. And please make sure you actually do an assessment, a third-party assessment of that actual firm that's doing those backups for you, because security organizations sometimes don't follow best practices either. I've seen that happen where, they're given advice, or they have a security company or touch on some type of, antivirus or whatever, and they don't practice what they preach, so to speak, or they don't practice those best practices that will allow them to recover. Because I've seen service providers now being targeted. So if you are a business, a BC company, and then you have 15 customers, if they hit you with ransomware, that's a big problem. And that's something that was an uptick last year, where we saw that managed providers were getting hit. And so that's your business. If you're in business to help people recover from backups, and then you get hit by ransomware, we could care less whose fault it was. Bottom line is, can you now deliver, or do you have to go to those 15 customers, and will you now stay in business after not being able to provide the service that they asked you for, which is the ability to recover. So when you as a company are hiring the third party provider, you want to really make sure that they tell you exactly how they're doing their backups, how often they're doing their backups, where those backups are stored, what happens from a service provider perspective if they are a victim of some type of disruption of service. How are they going to make sure you stay in business? And what you need to do to protect yourself is have your own, copies of your system on tape somewhere off the network where all else fails, dust it off. All else fails, you're able to recover to something, because that's the whole point, being able to recover from an issue that's happening in your environment. So hopefully you guys got some information out of there. I'll put the link to the article that I was speaking of, and we'll talk again next time. Have a good day. Hey everybody, random thought or random rant, whichever one. I was reading an article about bad Yelp reviews. So essentially, there was this California-based mortgage company that was responding to their bad reviews by putting out very personal details about the individuals in question. So, like literally mother's maiden name, credit score, the late payments, all of this stuff, because it was the mortgage company was responding to these bad Yelp reviews. And sometimes, of course, I'm sorry, the FTC came in, they fined them, they settled the lawsuit. I think it was like $120,000 or something to that effect, where they ended up, settling this suit because they were completely out of line. Why would you respond to a bad Yelp review by putting out personal details of a particular individual? Very, very personal. So it sometimes is a good idea just to keep your opinions to yourself. Customers are, it's a part of business to be able to get those bad reviews, and but responding in kind, or responding in a way that you're putting that individual's personal details out there, is what got them in trouble. So very interesting. I'll put the link in the art to the article below. Enjoy. Thanks, guys. Thanks again for listening to the Breach Whisperer blog, sponsored by the cybersecurity law firm of Texas. Don't forget to like this post and subscribe to our channel so you can get updates of when we post new things on our channel. In addition, spread the word for me, right? Let's get out there and tell a friend, and so they can all become paranoid cybersecurity and privacy people. Don't forget, if you would like to connect with me on socials, you can connect with me on Twitter at Mary N. Cheney. Use my middle initial always. For my nonprofit, Minorities in Cybersecurity, that is at Mike Leadership, and Instagram and Facebook at MN Cheney Law. And you can find me on LinkedIn just by searching for my name. So if you're interested, connect with me. Thanks again. And just remember, awareness equals knowledge.